I am the Philosophical Bachelor, and today I'm going to give you my thoughts on Gran Turismo. I was in two minds whether I would catch the new movie Gran Turismo. I saw the trailer and it looked great, but the reviews weren't all supportive, and I was also skeptical with what may be one extended advertisement for the major brands involved, from Sony PlayStation to Nissan. But when I started watching, you had me at get your engines ready. I was enraptured from start to finish. Gran Turismo is based on the real-life story of Jan Madamboro, a British motorsports race car driver. He isn't even that old by my books, 32 years young today. For those who don't know, Gran Turismo is the name of the console game made for the Sony PlayStation, and Jan has been playing it since he was 8, at his friend's home since he didn't have the console himself. His appearance there was so frequent that his friend's family finally just gave it to him. Guess it was anything to just get him to leave. This was a kid who knew what he enjoyed. He was transfixed, almost like an addict. His parents were worried. His father, an ex-professional footballer, didn't understand how playing video games was going to help Jan in life, and honestly, because I am also not so young, I understand the sentiment. The fact that today there exist professional video games players still blows my mind. Anyway, Nissan Motor Corporation, through the persuasiveness of Darren Moore, based on real-life Darren Cox, a Nissan marketing executive, decided to take a chance and sponsor the GT Academy, where the best players of Gran Turismo can get a shot to race for real. Everyone was skeptical, especially Jack Salter, the man brought in to train the rookie drivers. While Jan was the man of the hour, Jack was critical to the film, though he is not a real character but is based on an amalgam of several real-life people involved with the training program. Whatever. He was awesome. Jack was a skeptic of the program since race car drivers are serious athletes, while video game players are not known for their fitness, since sitting in a room playing video games for hours on end is probably not conducive to your health. Basically, other than Cox, who had brand promotion and its career rewards as a motivator, no one believed in GT Academy. Everybody hated Yen. From other drivers who felt sim drivers will make the races more risky and endanger the lives of other drivers since they are not real drivers, their words not mine, to the pit crew who probably thought the same, no one was with Yen. Or so the movie depicted it. The drama, the action, the sound, the tension, the movie is a manifestation of the hero's journey, with spills which really took place in Yen's real life thrown in. Gran Turismo reminds me a lot of Eddie the Eagle, another real life person dramatized in a 2016 movie of the same name. It was pretty much the same situation where nobody believed in him. A top-level skier, he was turned down for the British Olympics team because the selection panel were elitist pricks. He decided to try to make it to the Olympics another way, through ski jumping, a sport totally new to him. He went to Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Germany to train, and the people there thought he was going to die, given how dangerous ski jumping is. But all that didn't stop him. Eddie's story was not as triumphant as Jan's, as he finished last in his two events at the 1988 Calgary Olympics, though he did manage to set a new British record that stood until 2001. Jan and Eddie are just two characters that did not make it the usual way. For ski jumping, apparently the competitors start training for it since they were toddlers or something like that. It might be at a later age in car racing, but I imagine the story is the same, involving relentless dedication and training at sports academies since young. Not to knock those who make it through the conventional path. Not at all. In fact, I salute their endurance, stamina, and single-mindedness. I wish I had more of that myself. Here's my first point. There is not one way to success. Who would have thought that playing video games would have brought Jan to professional racing? Who would not be skeptical of Eddie the Eagle, who only began ski jumping at age 22? I don't want to say that age does not matter, especially in physical endeavours such as sports or for that matter playing music. When I began my first piano lesson aged 39, I knew already that there was no hope in hell I would ever be able to become a professional concert pianist. But like Jan, it didn't matter. At least in the movie, he wasn't playing the video game so he could be a race car driver. He enjoyed it was a passion for him, it gave him pleasure and a sense of achievement, whether it turned out to bring anything beyond what it did bring, which is the fun and challenge of the video game. The world of philosophy is scattered with such people also. Albert Camus didn't have a PhD, and neither did Charles Sanders Peirce, considered as one of the, if not the top American thinker of all time. In music, Johann Sebastian Bach is today recognized as probably the best composer of all time, but he was a virtual unknown in his lifetime. Need I mention Vincent van Gogh in art or Franz Kafka for his fiction? Point 2. Be ready so that when the opportunity comes, you are able to seize it. At least in the movie, Jan was already a top player at Gran Turismo when the GT Academy competition began. In real life, GT Academy was already into its third installment when Jan got selected. He knew about it and had been training for it. But on the other hand, he had already been training for it since he was 8 years old. The movie showed him already knowing what he wanted to be since he was even younger than that when his father brought him to a motor show, with a photograph in his place of pride above his desk reminding him continually of his dreams. Whether that detail in the movie is real, I do not know. The point is, he was ready when opportunity beckoned. Point 3. Naysayers. You know there is this saying, if you can't do, teach? That is stupid nonsense. Do not repeat it to anyone unless you want to look like an insolent fool. The correct version should be, if you can't, criticize those who can. There will always be haters. They don't matter. You can be Luciano Pavarotti, David Beckham, Tiger Woods, or whoever that is at the top of their game, and you will still have haters. Rise above it, ignore it, get mad and use the anger to fuel you. Whatever it is, don't let them dictate how you should live your life. It's your life. Own it. Point 4. This point should really be 3.5 since it relates closely to point 3. Recognize this? Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the hallway, don't block up the hall. And then later, come mothers and fathers throughout the land and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand, for the times, they are a-changing. I think one of the reasons Bob Dylan won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2016 is partly for the words to this song. Point 3 is about naysayers and how you should respond. This point 4, is for the naysayers. If you are a naysayer, realize that your negativity can be toxic. It can come from a place of concern, like how Jan's dad was afraid he would not be able to take care of himself as an adult, or his mum, who was afraid he might injure himself during a race. Both concerns are indeed valid. Not every venture ends in triumph. Imagine if Eddie the Eagle died on his early attempts on the hills, or if Jan crashed and died while racing. However, for parents, I think there comes a point in your child's life when they have to be allowed to make their own mistakes. It need not even be when they are already adults. Sometimes even while they are kids, you got to let them fall so that they know how to pick themselves up. As with much in life, there is no simple rule on what to do. Everyone enters parenthood with zero experience. Yet you have to judge when to let loose the reins and when to tighten it based on the character of your child and the danger involved. Remember, it is about them, not about you. Point 5. It is just a game. That was what Jan told himself when he was in a make or break moment on the racetrack. Jack told him what needed to be done. It required Jan to dig deep and commit. Sometimes the way to conquer pressure is to just tell yourself not to take things too seriously. Of course, in this film, there is the idea that when he is racing for real, it is not so different than when he is playing the Gran Turismo video game in his bedroom, which is why video game players like himself can also succeed on an actual racetrack. But I want to think about this in another way. Sometimes the extra pressure is just what we need to push us to a higher level of performance. Sometimes that extra pressure drives us over the edge into paralysis or a nervous breakdown. If it is the latter, to take things hard is counterproductive. It may be better to understand that life is after all just a game, where if at first you don't succeed, try again. By having such a consolation, it can dissipate our stress and so help us to perform better. We cannot be impatient for success. What we can do is to train hard and in doing so prepare well, but we cannot demand that we win. All we can do is to put in the effort. But by training hard and preparing well, we create the conditions such that we are worthy of victory. My last point. Why do such movies, sports films in particular, move us the way that they do? I think it has to do with the human drama of overcoming not just naysayers, but simply the odds stacked against them, be it from their gender in A League of Their Own in 1992 or Rocky in 1976, the underdog who has to come from way behind in order to win. Why do sporting events move us? For many, it may be to support their home teams or some such reason. But for me, I think it is because we get to see what our fellow human beings are capable of. As the Olympic motto goes, Citius, Altius, Fortius, higher, faster, stronger. It is human achievement at the highest levels. It tells us what could be possible so as to inspire us to also demand more from ourselves. Motorsports involves many activities. It is a team sport par excellence because driver ability is just one of the many factors. The technical capability of the car's design and engine, the ingenuity of the engineers, the support of the technicians and pit crew and other factors non-performance related, such as funding and even politics, have to all fall in place to have a shot at success. Still, all of that has to do with human achievement. Even the engine depends on human engineers perfecting its performance. Even funding requires marketers to go out there to make the case. So how will the dice fall now that we seem to be standing on the precipice of being overtaken by artificial intelligence in many human endeavors, including creative ones? Today the best checkers players are machines. Chess and Go, games requiring intelligence, look set to go the same way, with computers increasingly besting human competitors. Does it really matter? A panther or a cheetah can outrun a human being over short distances, and a motorcycle over any distance at all. But so what? Robots can play the piano nicely too, or for that matter, just put on a CD to listen to the best recorded performances in history. Some human endeavors may certainly be lost to machines in future. For some, we will lose them gladly. For instance, going into danger zones like nuclear cores, coal mines, or performing bomb detonations. I don't think anyone misses washing their clothing by hand instead of just chucking it into a washing machine. Some tasks may be missed by some. For example, secretarial work by former secretaries, or driving by taxi and truck drivers when self-driving cars become the norm. But why do we keep watching foot races instead of just letting the fastest craft or animal win? Why do we tune in to watch live football where we can certainly watch a very exciting and realistic but computerized simulation of it? Why is golf played with instruments suboptimal to hitting a ball over a distance into a tiny hole by a human being? Surely we can hit it further by launching it out of a cannon or a gun, and surely we can laser guide it into the hole the way we guide missiles to their targets. But why do we continue playing golf the way we do? Why do we cheer on weightlifters and the world's strongest men and women when a forklift can lift so much more and in less time? It is because we, as human beings, want to see what another human being is capable of. We know we cannot outrun a jaguar or ostrich, a vehicle or an airplane, but our race is not against them, but is ultimately against ourselves. Thank you for listening to the Philosophical Bachelor.